Okay, and I'd like to welcome you all to another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. I am your host, Joe Grumbine, and this show is brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. I've got a very special guest with me today, and we're going to have a lot to talk about, but this is my Aunt Nancy Smit, and I don't really talk about myself much in these podcast episodes, at least not yet, but I come from a big family. And my dad was the oldest of 12 children, and Nancy here was the next in line. And my dad passed away 6 or 7 years ago, and Nancy and I have been very close along the way. And I used to pal around with her daughters when we were just kids, and we used to go hunting out at their place or from their place. And anyways, we shared a lot of life experience, but Nancy is got some expertise with regards to healthy living in a lot of ways, but one in particular, and I want to talk about this today a little bit, but mostly we're just going to get to know Nancy, is, we talk about healthy living, mind, body, and spirit. We talk about the body a lot because that's that thing that we feel, and that's that thing that, gives us grief and pain and a cough or a headache or all that stuff. And so we oftentimes are focusing on, creating a healthy body if we can, but the mind and the spirit, I believe, are really powerful as well. And I think they're just, it's a three-legged stool. Any one of those has a problem, and I think that the whole being gets a problem. And Nancy's got some experience and training with regards to the mind and spirit. Nancy, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay. I'm 77 years old and have been a licensed marriage and family therapist for probably about 25 years. And I raised 5 children, and then I went to school when they were in school, and I had a lot of learning disabilities to get through. So I believe that anybody can achieve anything if they're determined enough and want something bad enough, because that was my case. And so lots of years, lots of people, and it's been a blessed life. I can't say how blessed I've been to have lived this many years and enjoyed, like I said, my family is 12 children. So by the time we ever got together at any family get-togethers, you were looking at about 100 people, children, in-laws, outlaws, and so they were wonderful memories.
Always
coming
epic.
From a big family. Never a dull moment, and nothing to do. Always many things to do that filled your day and your heart. Many memories.
So I think that this wealth of experience that you have, I mean, it's interesting. We all have a lifetime full of experience, whatever that means, right?
Right.
But some people spend a lot of time doing a limited amount of things, and some people spend a limited amount of time doing a lot of things, and you did a little bit of it all. And coming from a big family, I came from a big family as well, and a lot of our family is the same. And just growing up with 5 brothers and sisters myself, and I was this weird bridge between the generations. So being the oldest grandkid and part of this gigantic family that, as you're talking about, we had these Christmas parties and Easter parties and family reunions and camp out trips, and it was just epic. But the thing I think that's important is, as we're talking about healthy living, mind, body, and spirit, I think the community and relationships and all of the elements of that, I think, are tied to everything. Every lesson in life can come out of a relationship, a single relationship, much less a lot of them, right?
Yes. Well, man is born for relationship. That's the whole thing of who we are as human beings, as persons, is that we're created to love and to be loved. So it's our seeking of the people we're with, it's having our experiences that gives us joy in life and meaningfulness in life, and what we can help others with or experience. All those things give us joy. I'm a Christian therapist, and I believe a lot of the truths of in the Bible, one of them says it's in giving that you receive. So you take these principles and you go, yes, am I happier when I'm giving than when I'm receiving something? Yes, gives me great joy to give, whether I'm in counseling or helping my own family or whatever I'm doing. I mean, I have been given a great gift of energy, usually from getting up at 6 or 7 in the morning and sometimes not going to bed till 1 or 2 at night. So I've had an abundance of ability to experience a lot of different aspects of life, such as gardening. So I'm into the health thing, trying to live organically and through healthy living of not the pesticides and things that can destroy. I had a experience of mercury poisoning when I was maybe about 30 years ago, where my teeth were leaking. I became very ill, and then realized through a health fair that I had mercury poisoning. I had to sleep sitting up, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, but I had just had dental work. And so I found out through my friend that I had mercury poisoning that was off the charts. Spent 12 hours in a dentist chair in Apple Valley, I think, or Blythe, having all my silver amalgams removed and replaced, and feeling better than I had just after all that than I had in many years. And so that was one of my first major things of, and mercury is stored in the fat cells. So, we don't realize all the poisons that we take into our body get somehow stored. And this is one of the reasons why I'm understanding you don't go on a crash diet, because once you go on a crash diet, all the stuff in the fat cells get dumped into the bloodstream, and you can become very ill.
It's funny, people talk about, detoxing, and the reality of true detoxing is it can be deadly. I mean, like you say, your body's really good at preserving itself. So when something poisonous gets in, either your body will get rid of it quick as it can, or it'll encapsulate it and keep it from getting to the rest of you, and it stores it away where it chelates it and makes it to where it's not reactive. But then you go and release it, and all of a sudden there it is bouncing around doing its damage, and people have gotten really, really sick from, like you say, crash diets, people going on these hardcore juice fasts and things like that in the right way, with the right forethought and practice, it can be healthy. But you just willy-nilly just going at it and saying, I'm just going to make this thing happen and don't think it out, you can do a number on yourself.
Yes. And I recall after my dental work being done, my doctor being concerned about the mercury in the fat cells, and I ended up finding a detox method that was down in Del Mar. So I went there with my friend, and I started on this detox of the fat cells. And I would drive down there, I'd be perfectly fine, feeling good, and I'd go do my treatment, and all that stuff got dumped into my system, and I couldn't even raise my arm or drive
Wow.
home. So it is true, we have to pay attention to our bodies, what's happening with us. Each one of us is very individual. Each one of us has to see who and what we are and realize our weaknesses. I was a person who could not detox well, but some people can detox well, and what goes in goes out, and they're fine. So,
Right. Yeah, if and we talk a lot on this podcast, the subject of the individual chemistry and the individual biology of every single person being unique comes up a lot. And this is another example of that, where just as some people react to different supplements or stimuli, detox is no different. Like you said, some people are programmed for it, it's just like cookie cutter, do your detox, get cleared out, and you're reset and off to go. Other people, it just goes horribly wrong and they get violently sick, and maybe even irreparably sick. It can cause real damage.
yes. So detox in abundance is not always good.
Now, one thing that we're just going to touch on some things. My hope is that we'll be able to discuss some of these in great depth as their own topic. But, years ago, so Nancy and I have been working together on nonprofit work for more than 15 years, almost 20 years, really, with the Amazon project and then the original Gardens of Hope, and that was 15 years ago. And so when we were originally working on the Gardens of Hope program, we were creating tools for therapy using gardening, and at one point you had talked about electrical medicine, and I didn't know at all what that was, and I was thinking getting hooked up to electricity and getting zapped a little bit. I was like, all right, I don't know. I know they do that in the psych wards, but but still, I'm always open-minded. And then it turns out that this whole electrical medicine, there's more than one thing. There's the biorhythm and the biofeedback stuff, which is about measuring electrical impulses that are coming from you. But then there's also the Rife machine and other frequency type
balancing frequencies in the body. And I would challenge anybody to go look up Royal Rife. He's around the turn of the 1900s. He actually has, you can see the information with which he had cured cancer. And then it all got buried through the Food and Drug Administration not wanting the technology to get out. And it's quite a story. And
they locked him up for a while.
Well, he died. I don't recall whether he died or not, but just look up his name, Royal Rife, and then read about his history, about his background. It's so interesting. And then that gives you the idea of what electrical medicine is all about. And that's what healed me through the mercury toxicity and I was one of the first ones to buy one of these machines through this particular therapist that was treating me. And so I was my own doctor for many years with my medicine machine, but my computer blew up and my program and things changed. And so it got stuck on the shelf for a while, but then in the last 15 years or so, they had new things coming out. So
I understand they have some kind of a bed now. I saw it at the Natural Foods Expo, or I didn't see it, but somebody else did.
Okay.
And it's they call it a quantum something.
Theory,
quantum bed, quantum electrical something or other. But anyways, it seems to me, based on what I heard about it, it's operating in somewhat the same sort of a.
And so let me maybe explain that a little bit. So Your body is electric. Every cell that you have has electrical energy in it, where the atoms and protons and neutrons are spinning around. Now, just think of it like a piano. You can hit a chord, and there's a particular sound with which that particular chord is supposed to resonate. So even in our guitar, what do? We tune, we tighten, or we loosen the string to get a particular pitch. And this is what electrical medicine basically is trying to retune the body to what it was meant to resonate different cells. Every cell in your body, if it's a heart cell, it has a particular resonance at which, like a radio frequency. Like that's why we can call clear across the world. These are frequencies. They're not halted by space and people or objects. And so in a sense, we have to open our mind to what is even possible. What is it that God has created the human body to do, and how does it work? And every year we find more and more information on it, and it's more and more exciting. But I encourage all of you to go look up Royal Rife and see if you might be interested in that kind of technology.
It's quite interesting, and then to look and see what, you know, the potential of it is. It's an interesting device. It has this little glass coil thing, and it lights up, but I've used it for a couple of different ailments, and you know, even just a few treatments, I felt a shift. And it's, you know, it's not like taking a heavy drug or something where all of a sudden, boom, it's a thing, but you feel a shift. And, you know, I think that if you're aligning something, it makes some kind of sense. You know, if you're tuning a frequency or a string, it doesn't, you know, go blah, it just goes nee, 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 until it gets to the right.
Well, there are positive and negative frequencies on these systems. The negative system is you don't want any of it. So you're trying to eradicate any negative things, like you don't want any virus that's going to kill you. So, or
Makes
bacteria.
sense.
So what it does is it takes the frequencies, start to kill those viruses, but it doesn't just one treatment and boom, it's gone. But it's like, as you receive a treatment maybe once or twice a week for a couple of weeks, it loses its strength, and pretty soon it just falls off the cliff and goes dead. So it's like it slowly builds up to getting rid of it, and then it will register 0 where you don't have that particular virus.
So
or
you do a
frequency.
reading as a
You do a
diagnostic
reading, yes,
first.
there's
to
a
see what's
diagnostic
wrong.
reading first. And then you can build up things. Let's say you want to retune your heart muscle. So there's a lot of frequencies that you can put in a program and run the program, and you can just build up the heart, retune it like the piano thing. So it's either getting rid of stuff on the negative frequencies that you don't want, or building up the positive ones on the things that you want to retune.
Well, that's exciting and interesting, and I certainly would like to explore that more. I know the brief period of time I had the machine, it was interesting and useful, and of course, you know, you never get enough time to do the things you want, and I definitely still want to spend some more time with that. I'd like to touch on, we don't have a lot of time left for this episode, but I'd like to touch on, you know, your work with therapy too. I think that, you know, marriage counseling, any kind of therapy is probably, I don't know, today it seems to become, it doesn't have a stigma on it the way it used to. I mean, in the old days, maybe people were cautious to mention, you know, oh, I'm seeing a therapist. Nowadays, everybody sees a therapist. It's not a...
And that's true. However, there is a natural instinct within the human spirit of, I don't want people knowing all my all the things, my weaknesses. We have a natural aversion to, unless we're really close to a person, wanting to share our weaknesses, our Achilles heels. And most people, if you look out there and you're looking at marriages and people that are married, you would say there's a hell of a lot of happy people. But one of the most interesting things was I went to do counseling for my church, and the people I had put up on pedestals and thought they had
They're
this
all miserable.
more solid marriages came to see me as a counselor in my internship. So
Yeah.
yes, we don't know, but it's a natural instinct for us to protect ourselves from people that we think might be critical. And now I don't think the stigma is, like Joe says, so much. And but I do think it's very important what kind of a therapist you're looking for or getting. There are probably about 8 different basic types of therapy. You can say Freudian, reality therapy, cognitive therapy, behavior therapy. So if you're going to pick a therapist, it would really help you to understand how they think they can help you. Me as a Christian therapy, I like to put, I'm in what I call an eclectic, where I take a little from this, a little from that. Anything that I see works, I usually use it. Like uncovering, looking at people's beliefs and then looking at the false beliefs they have and exploring them to be able to say, okay, if you keep believing something that's not true, you're going to keep making the same mistakes. So that is one important therapy, is to look at what are the things that we actually believe that are really maybe not true.
Yeah, that's the problem with beliefs, because you can believe anything, right?
Yeah, that's
And
true.
a lot of times, especially today, I think we got this world where we have information being broadcast to us with points of view and biases that are maybe not in our best interest. And we're told this over and over and over and over again. At one point, I think people convince themselves of things. Certainly we get convinced by absorbing the same information over and over again.
So probably if you look at it this way, we have 2 parts to us, our emotions and then our intellect and our conscience. Now, everybody, if you ask them, do you have a conscience? Do you know right from wrong? Do you know you believe what's right and wrong for you? I don't know anybody that says no.
No.
So that's the part in us that I'm trying to reach in each person, because each person has to decide for themselves what they experience, the truth, the deepest meaning of right and wrong, and the deepest meaning of what they should be doing, what the choice they make with their free will. So we have our emotional self, which is where all information first comes in. We have an emotional response. I like that. I don't like that. Okay, then, but what do we do with it? That's like our, you might say, inner child. Yes, but some people stay in their inner child. I like that. I don't like that. And they make choices with their free will from that little thing. And they don't go to, is their intellect saying, no, I shouldn't do that, even though I feel like doing it. And that's where I find most people get in trouble, because they can't distinguish this, that everything is one big bowl of spaghetti, where they just see themselves as, I am who I am. But we have to learn to separate those 2 parts of us so we can understand it. And the child, what it wants to be happy, a child just wants to be happy. So it chooses things. Sometimes it's stupid. Sometimes it chooses alcohol. Sometimes it chooses all kinds of things that aren't really going to make it happy, but they believe it will. And so we have to get beyond our emotions into the other part of us and discern through the decision-making process, who makes the decision, the child or the adult in you. And so we need to start separating those 2 things within us and understanding the child is never supposed to be behind the wheel of the car. Parent is supposed to be driving the car. And we need to pay attention to who's driving the car. The car being our body, ourself, making decisions for ourselves. Do we stop at this one? Do we turn left? Do we turn right? Always make sure the parent is making the decision for you.
Well, I think that's a good bit of wisdom to wrap this episode up. Nancy, I always know we got a good show going on because all of a sudden I'm like, crap, we're out of time. But if I let it run too long, no matter how interesting it is, people lose their train of thought. So we live in this TikTok world where people are good for 20 to 25 minutes if you're lucky, and that's where I've decided to cap it off. So what I'd like to do at the end of every episode is give my guest an opportunity to if you want to let people know, if they want to reach you, or if you want to be reached,
Okay.
your parting shot, how you want to let people know.
Okay, well, I have a mobile counseling service, and people I can do like a signal, something like a Zoom back and forth on a computer if people aren't near me, but I come to people's homes, and my number is 951-634-4052.
Fantastic. Well, Nancy, it's been a pleasure. I'm hoping that you enjoyed it as well and want to come back.
Sure.
And we have a lot to talk about. Healthy living is such a big topic that we could jump into a number of things and go deep. So thank you so much for being here. And folks, we'll see you next episode.
Okay, bye.